All right. I've been curious. I know a lot of other people been curious. I don't know what this is. I only got a little bit in pieces of what it is. Okay? So let's just go into this. I don't know what the fuck this even is, honestly. I got that it was that, you know what I'm saying? The 2 words. So I'ma actually just play this and I'ma just go off of one. It says the full and disturbing timeline of the files, so I'ma just, you know what I'm saying, leave it at that.
Way too many buttons around this bitch like we hopped on a spaceship. Way too many niggas around here who get money, shit contagious. All this ass keep floating in my face. I'm bound to go crazy. I'm bound to score me a buck like my last name McGrady.
Jeffrey Epstein died in prison in 2019. Many thought he'd take his secrets with him.
Welcome to Miss Mojo. Today we're unpacking the timeline of Jeffrey Epstein's rise, crimes, and downfall, culminating in the release of the so-called Epstein files. And now with the files being unsealed and new DOJ memos hitting headlines, we're breaking down how decades of secrecy have shaped the fight for accountability.
Monica, let's start with you. Some of Trump's top Justice Department officials now say they want federal prosecutors to speak to convicted Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. So what is behind this move?
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. Could you please give us your name? Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein was born January 20th, 1953 in Brooklyn and raised in Siki, a gated community at the western tip of Coney Island. The boy, affectionately nicknamed Epi by his peers, excelled in math and piano, skipped grades and attended the Interlochen music program. He later took courses at Cooper Union and NYU's Courant Institute, but left before receiving a degree. Those facts matter. The credential gap contrasts sharply with the elite rooms he'd soon enter. His early narrative, talent, ambition, and restlessness foreshadows the sinister leaps to come, where social access, not diplomas, would prove decisive.
I was always very good at mathematics and what they did. It was solving puzzles. There's a strange feeling when you get the right answer to a puzzle.
He never graduated from college. However, he was able, because of his intelligence, to find work at the Dalton School on the Upper East Side in Manhattan.
In 1974, Epstein became a physics/math teacher at Manhattan's elite Dalton School, despite lacking a completed college degree. Through Dalton, he met Alan Ace Greenberg of investment services firm Bear Stearns, a connection that pried open Wall Street's door.
So he thought the best person to start would be on the floor of the American Stock Exchange, and then later move up to the trading desk and learn all different areas of the firm, including the margin department. He was amazing.
The Dalton period reads less like a teaching stint than a launchpad, from classroom to boardroom via proximity to privilege.
Dalton is a private school on the Upper East Side that's historically been associated with the tippity top of the 1%.
Jeffrey Epstein was my math teacher for the 2 years he was at Dalton. He had this thick Brooklyn accent. He was so personable and so charismatic. And he found what I think was a brilliant way to meet rich people, which is through their children.
This is the first clear pivot from raw aptitude to leveraged access, an early case study in how elite institutions can bestow social capital that shoots down the need for formal credentials.
Here's a guy who was smart, charming, cunning. He knew how to read people and get what he needed from them. In 1980, Epstein even appears in Cosmo magazine as a Bachelor of the Month. And he's described as a financial strategist who talks only to people who make over $1 million a year.
Epstein joined Bear Stearns in the late 1970s and by 1980 was a limited partner. In 1988, he founded J. Epstein and Company.
He say, if you won't make a meal, don't talk to me, fam. That's it. I'm not talking to you.
To advise ultra-wealthy clients.
Can't blame
The
him.
public record, however, shows striking concentration. His most consequential patron was Leslie Wexner, who granted Epstein sweeping power of attorney in 1991, a relationship that helped explain the jets, mansions, and outsized aura.
I just want to say, one thing that's very clear, when people say...
So wait, the man's was a teacher with jets and mansions. Okay.
share names. There are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's, financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him.
Even allies later alleged vast sums went missing. Others questioned his fee structure and client list. To this day, the mechanics of his wealth, fees, leverage, and access are
the man's had an island? Pause back. Go back.
and client list. To this day, the mechanics of his wealth.
What? Don't tell me this Epstein Island right here.
His leverage and access remain unusually hard to follow for a man who so publicly flaunted his extravagant lifestyle.
This boat captain, Guy Dom, ferried Epstein to and from the island.
There was a time I took Jeffrey Epstein's party of four out here to the island. And it's basically a woman about his age and a couple of girls that look like they were 13, 14, maybe 15 years old.
What?
And I dropped them off. Didn't think anything of it.
Epstein acquired Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands in 1998 for roughly $8 million. Over the next 2 decades, the island became central to survivor accounts and law enforcement narratives about abuse, with later unsealed records and reports cementing its notoriety.
And that's where he has his complex where he lives, which is his official residence as well. And that these young girls and women were subject to sexual assault, sexual exploitation, through coercion, false imprisonment.
A crass but painfully accurate nickname captured what prosecutors and witnesses described a secluded hub where isolation, staff control, and air travel logistics enabled exploitation, allegedly by some of society's richest, most powerful elites. The island's subsequent sale with neighboring Great St. James underscored how real estate assets were enmeshed in legal claims and estate settlements long after Epstein's death.
The island is now owned by a billionaire investor who bought it 2 years ago for $60 million. He reportedly plans to turn it into a luxury 25-room resort, which explains the presence of all those workers. A temple that Epstein built at the top of the island has been boarded up and painted over.
In 2005, Palm Beach police began investigating tips about underage girls being brought to Epstein's mansion for massages. Detectives documented a pattern: recruitment, cash payments, coercion, and referrals of friends. The local state attorney's office moved toward a single solicitation charge, prompting outrage inside law enforcement.
Do you agree that you exchanged money for sexual gratification with at least 50 girls at your Palm Beach mansion?
At the present time, my attorneys have counseled me they cannot provide answers to any questions relevant to this lawsuit.
Survivors' persistence in investigating spade work exposed a network far larger than initial charging decisions suggested. This is the inflection point where private whispers became sworn statements and search warrants. And yet the system's first real test of will yielded only partial traction, foreshadowing the controversial compromises to come.
The girls that were involved in this, they really could not have been more separated and different from the world of Palm Beach. They're living in trailer park homes. Some of them had probably never even been to the island.
The targets, the victims, were as vulnerable as you could possibly be.
A 2006 Palm Beach grand jury returned just 2 charges, despite police recommending multiple felonies. Investigators then turned to the FBI, which built a broader interstate case suggesting dozens of underage victims and organized facilitation. Even as federal leverage grew, Epstein's legal team negotiated aggressively.
The original case involved a very limited search warrant or set of search warrants and didn't take as much investigatory material as should have seized. If I were the FBI director then, it wouldn't have happened. The search warrants were limited to small time periods to include 2002 to 2005 and 1997 to 2001.
Years later, internal DOJ reviews and court rulings would spotlight serious governmental missteps and victims' rights issues tied to this phase. The takeaway is stark. By 2007, federal authorities had the outlines of a trafficking enterprise, yet the outcome would not reflect the investigation's scope.
Mr. Acosta allowed Epstein to enter in 2008 to a plea and non-prosecution agreement, which then the courts issued mandates and protective orders legally prohibiting anyone from ever seeing that material ever again without the permission of the court. The non-prosecution agreements also barred future prosecutions for those involved at that time of those individuals.
In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty in Florida state court to solicitation charges, including a minor, and served just short of 13 months.
What?
Liberal work release privileges.
Are you released from jail at some time? Do you have to report back to jail on a daily basis?
Yes, I report back to jail at 8 p.m.
Every single day? Yes, sir. And is it 7 days a week that you're out on work release? No, sir. How many days a week are you out on work release? 6.
Secretly, a federal non-prosecution agreement, or NPA, immunized potential co-conspirators and was not disclosed to victims, a violation a federal judge later flagged under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Though efforts to unwind the deal ultimately ran out of steam, the NPA became the emblem of institutional failure, elite defense power, prosecutorial deference, and a justice system that protected the well-connected while sidelining survivors. Its consequences reverberated into every subsequent proceeding.
Little about the agreement had come to light until this month. A few weeks ago, the government opposed 2 of Epstein's victims. Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 allege federal prosecutors entered into an agreement without their knowledge and then covered it up until just days before Epstein entered his plea in court.
In July 2019, Epstein was arrested by the FBI and NYPD upon returning to New York from France. He was charged with trafficking and conspiracy, collusion conduct from 2002 to 2005 in the states of New York and Florida, with a structured recruitment pipeline and payments to victims and recruiters. Bail was denied.
His mansion on East 71st Street was raided early Sunday morning as agents hauled out multiple bags of evidence from disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. We're told the 66-year-old registered sex offender had just landed at Teterboro Airport on Saturday, returning home from France when he was arrested.
The case reframed prior failures. Federal prosecutors now spotlighted scale.
Get off that plane, catch his ass.
2008 resolution had obscured. For survivors, it was long deferred validation that their accounts described a system, not isolated incidents.
Got off the plane, called him.
Finally hear the evidence in full.
They say, yeah, he lands at 8 p.m. Go get his ass. Meet him there.
And we all come together beautifully and tragically, which feels healing and devastating all at the same time, to speak out and to be fueled by each other's voices in a way that I don't know that we've had the opportunity to in the past.
Just over a month later, Epstein was found unresponsive in his MCC New York cell. The NYC medical examiner ruled that he died by his own hand. The DOJ Inspector General later detailed cascading failures, staffing shortages, unperformed rounds, falsified logs, and a missing cellmate, all while a high-risk detainee had recently been on heightened monitoring.
Prosecutors say Tova Noel and Michael Thomas repeatedly failed to conduct mandated 30-minute inmate checks on the disgraced millionaire who was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, allegedly browsing the internet, looking at furniture and motorcycles, and even sleeping at their desks just 15 feet away from Epstein's cell.
We here for the check, gang.
Of making rounds.
The watchdog found
no out last night, man.
Nevertheless, documented negligence and misconduct.
Ain't nobody here, boss in here. Let me go sleep at the desk.
Federal trial record. And shifted accountability onto co-conspirators and institutions.
The 26-year-old was supposed to face trial beginning in June 2020 for sex trafficking and abusing dozens of teenage girls. Authorities are promising that the potential for justice for those victims does not die with Epstein.
Epstein's closest associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was arrested in 2020, convicted in 2021, and in June of 2022 received 20 years in federal prison for sex trafficking-related crimes. Prosecutors argued she recruited and groomed young girls, normalized abuse, and helped maintain Epstein's supply chain. The sentence, upheld on appeal, became a proxy for Epstein's trial that never was. Vivid testimony, corroborating records, and survivor impact statements that formalized the enterprise in the eyes of the court. It also heightened pressure to unseal more records tied to their operations.
We do have the Deputy Attorney General saying that he was directed by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to schedule this meeting, and we're getting confirmation from Ghislaine Maxwell's own attorney. And you see there that comment from Todd Blanche. He writes, no one is above the law and no lead is off limits. But again, it's really unclear what kind of a lead there could be here.
After Maxwell's conviction, Judge Loretta Preska began unsealing tranches in Giuffre versus Maxwell, with major releases in January 2024. Depositions, exhibits, and name references contextualized to the civil case, though not an official client list. The disclosures amplified survivor narratives and clarified who appeared where and why, while redactions protected victims' identities.
More than 150 Jane and John Doe's witnesses and associates like Bill Clinton. He's not accused of wrongdoing, but in the court documents, an alleged victim was asked about the former president. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill Clinton? He said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
Parallel reporting collated thousands of coherent view beyond beyond rumor. Even so, significant materials, grand jury records, full digital evidence, and investigative work product remain sealed or outside the civil docket.
Prince Andrew is also named in the unsealed documents. Epstein instructed Jane Doe number 3 that she was to give the prince whatever he demanded.
This has been a better kept secret than nuclear launch codes.
In July of 2025, the DOJ and FBI released a memo summarizing their comprehensive review. No credible evidence of a client list, no corroborated blackmail program, and no basis to revisit the official determination of Epstein's matter of death. The memo also warned that further broad releases would be constrained by privacy laws and ongoing matters.
The judge said that in this case he did not find compelling reason to make this information public, and in fact he found compelling reasons against doing so, principally potential injuries to some of the victims in this case.
Coverage emphasized that only a partial batch of records had been disclosed and that key categories remained sealed, sustaining bipartisan pressure for transparency in Congress and beyond. The controversy shifted from what exists to what the public is allowed to see.
The judge also noted that, again, this was not an investigative grand jury. This was a 1 day of testimony from a single FBI agent summing up what they found in that investigation and presenting it to a grand jury for indictment. So a lot of the questions people thought might be answered in these transcripts probably aren't answered, but in any event, we're not going to see them, at least for now, because this judge is blocking the Justice Department's attempts to get them released.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Since October 2025, the Epstein saga has entered a new and uncomfortable chapter. The posthumous release of Virginia Giuffre's memoir, Nobody's Girl, reignited global attention by restating and expanding her long-standing allegations against Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew.
While there are no new claims in the book, it makes for a harrowing read.
Okay, this is totally off topic, but this threw me totally off. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just keep going. If y'all ever know what I'm talking about right now, I'm gonna just leave it here. And if you see it, pause, bro. Pause.
Which paints a picture of a web of rich and powerful people.
They need to change his name.
Using young women.
Change it.
Prince Andrew has consistently denied any wrongdoing and says he doesn't recall meeting Virginia Giuffre. But yesterday, the Metropolitan Police confirmed it was actively looking into reports.
Think about it though. Blank news. Like, come on, bro.
That Prince Andrew tried to obtain personal information about her through his personal protection team.
Giuffre, who died in April 2025, had previously settled her civil lawsuit with Andrew in 2022, with the prince denying all wrongdoing. But the memoir's publication triggered immediate fallout. Andrew announced he would stop using the title Duke of York and relinquish remaining honors. And Buckingham Palace confirmed that King Charles had begun a formal process to remove his styles and titles entirely. The result is renewed scrutiny of Andrew's public standing. A stark reminder that Epstein's shadow continues to reach far.
Now this strikes me as extremely serious and draws the palace perilously close to what was going on those years ago. What did they know about Andrew and his activities, and why didn't they do something about it? Those are the questions which are now being asked.
The Epstein saga didn't end with his death, or with Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing. Each new document release, from depositions to DOJ memos, adds more fuel to the debate over who knew what and how much justice remains hidden behind redactions. The Epstein files are more than records. They're a reminder of how institutions bend, break, or look away when the powerful are involved.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
Which part of Jeffrey Epstein's story shocked you the most? Is there anything we... Be sure to let us know in the comments below.
So, why did Trump say release the Epstein files then? Will they ever actually release them? That's the thing. That's what you gotta think about.